At the Air Force Academy, of course, a little bit unique and different from other universities and whatnot, but what is it that made it so memorable for yourself? And what kind of, would you say, skills did you pick up on there that you might not have picked up on somewhere else?
I think so. So two things. Let me address the kind of what makes it special type of thing, and that's the bonds that you form when you're at the Air Force Academy. When you have a group of people and you are going through significant challenges together, right? You really learn to rely on each other, right? And you build very tight connections. So my classmates from the Air Force Academy have spent, more than 30 years now, but we're still all connected through a network, right? Because we all know what we've been through together. And so I think it's hard to find that level of connection. I mean, number one, your first year, you're not even really allowed to leave the academy, so you're just stuck there with the same group of men and women. But you're all going through significant challenges on how to adjust academically, the military challenges and the amount of sort of pressure that they put you under. You learn to really rely on the folks around you. As for skill sets, to me, the biggest one is really learning, and we'll talk about this too, and how this translates into corporate America, but learning how to determine what's important, prioritize, and be very efficient with your time. There is no way to get through a military academy if you can't understand what's important, prioritize, and be very efficient with your time. There's just too much strain that's put on you. And so, I used to say all the time when I started at the Air Force Academy, I bombed all my placement exams. My SAT scores were probably close to the lowest of the entire class. And so I'm pretty confident that as I joined, I was in probably the bottom 5% of our class, right? Just from a standpoint of how I did on the SATs, how I did on, placement exams, et cetera. I graduated in the top 25%. And the difference for me, I certainly was not smarter than 75% of the people there. I'd still probably be in the bottom 10% of that. But what I had the ability to do was really pay attention in class, listen to the teachers, and understand what was important to them, right? What were the key concepts they were trying to get us to understand? And so when we go into a test, nobody can ever, cover everything that is needed. And so the question is, how good at you are understanding the 80% that will be covered, right? And that's something that I picked up on very early. And so I could come in and I could do better on a lot of the tests, a lot of the types of things we were getting graded on, because I could understand what was important from the instructor's perspective. What were they trying to get us to understand? And I would place my focus on that. So that was really, to me, is a very key skill to getting through something like a military academy.
And I guess on that idea of prioritization, I'm guessing you took that forward. And so is there anything else that, as a young professional, is that same theory apply in the sense of, putting that towards, understanding what the 80% that is required, what is the big focus of your manager or the organization, and that's where you focus your time?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, it was a key element to success that I had early in my career, and it is still the same thing today, right? Like if I think about, advice to people that are just getting into the business world, it really is, what is your ability to come in and understand what is important for your role, for the organization as a whole, and how do you drive results on what's important and do it efficiently, right? So I cannot tell you how many times, I can look across my career, people that I've worked with, and see people that are working very, very, very hard on the wrong stuff, right? Or on stuff that just really isn't that important, right? So a lot of times people can focus too much on the work and not on the outcomes, right? And so the real, if you're, I've had multiple people that are working 60 hours a week and they come in and talk about, how hard they're working. And I always try to reset them and say, I'm actually not interested in how hard you're working. I'm interested in what outcomes you're driving. What are your results? And if you are consistently working 60 hours a week, you're probably not working very efficiently, right? You're probably not focusing on the most important things and driving results in a simple manner, because that's another element that you see a lot of is people tend to overcomplicate things. And people that can cut through the complexity and help people reach results in a more simple manner, that will drive to a lot of success.
How would you advise someone to be a good performer, someone who creates decent output? I'm certain that it's not just specific skills that apply to the job that they're doing. There's got to be more broad kind of personality traits that you'd be looking for as a senior leader.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a couple of things. One, I think, people that are intellectually curious, right, I think that's one of the keys, right, because they're able to, constantly evolve themselves and learn and grow. You need people that have interpersonal relation skills, right? I mean, at the end of the day, and I've seen a lot of this throughout my career. People that are really, really capable, but don't know how to work with people, they'll make it to a certain level, but generally they won't. They won't. So I'll give you another example. If you talk to somebody and you say, hey, they'll say they've worked with Jim, right? And you're like, hey, how is Jim? Oh, Jim's one of the smartest people you ever meet. Like, okay. That means there's something wrong with Jim, right? Like, I get that Jim's smart, but the fact that you didn't come out the gate telling me, oh, Jim will crush it. Jim is awesome. Jim will deliver results, right? Like, if the first thing that comes out of their mouth is something that isn't talking about what they produce, but talking about like who they are, it means there's probably something off, right? So I think so. Intellectually curious. I think interpersonal skills. Again, the ability to prioritize and understand what's important. Those are some of the things that to me really help somebody get off to the right foot.
Then to get off on the right foot, to kind of continue this conversation, what would you recommend somebody who's brand new to the position in their first 90 days kind of strive to achieve? What's like the first 3 months that they should focus on in terms of development?
Yeah, I mean, network, but don't just do general networking, right? Like really have specific questions for the leaders that you're going to go network with, so you can understand what do they do, what's important, how do they drive success, what are they looking for. I think those things are very important. And I also think when I joined the military, you start out as a second lieutenant, right? And I'll never forget. You show up at the base, you get teamed up with a chief master sergeant who has been in the Air Force longer than you've been alive, right? And so this is a person you want to learn from, right? You want to learn all you can. And the saying has always been, keep your eyes and ears open and keep your mouth shut. Now, I'm not a believer in that, right? I absolutely believe eyes and ears open. I believe that you should be listening more than you're speaking in the early days. However, you have an education, you have a brain, you should speak up when you have the opportunity and when you see something, right? You shouldn't be trying to overpower things because you're in the learning mode, but you're there for a reason, right? You've been hired for a reason. Don't be afraid to speak up. So to me, that first 90 days, it's all about learning as much as you can. You can learn some of that through, documents and things that's documented about the company, about the business unit, about the goals that they're trying to achieve. But more important would be to network with people and be very intentional about the questions that you have for them.